manufacturing and supply chain industries on subjects of vital importance to the sectors and the economy at large. Today, we are going to talk about a distinct approach to manufacturing that could potentially be a game changer at a time when global supply chains are in a state of flux to a degree not seen at least since the end of the Cold War. And the world is seeking viable ideas for manufacturing and supply chains that can provide certainty, efficiency, and sustainability. The approach that we talk about today is being championed by an Indian multinational enterprise whose founder and chairman we have the pleasure of hosting for today's talk. Before I get out of the way with my first question to our speaker, let me introduce to you quickly the work and the background of our guest and his enterprise, which a lot of you are familiar with. Mr. Aravind Melligeri, the founder CEO of Aequs, is laser focused on creating long-term value through innovative strategies. Aerowind's differentiated approach to manufacturing has led India to increase in-country value add and gain a competitive advantage in the global arena. Over the last decade, he has built a vertically integrated aerospace ecosystem that drives scale and efficiency through co-located capabilities delivering end-to-end value streams. This unique ecosystem was awarded the prestigious Global Airbus Innovation Award in 2016 and recognized as the first of its kind in the world. By leveraging its manufacturing ecosystems, Aequs reliably delivers supply chain efficiencies to its global customer base. The company currently engages over 5,000 people at manufacturing facilities located across India, France, and the United States. With Arvind's resolute leadership and strategic collaboration with global companies, his company has grown to be a preferred partner for global OEMs. Today, to add to the aerospace ecosystem that Aequs has built at Belagavi, Karnataka, the company is developing India's first 400-acre toy manufacturing ecosystem in Koppal, Karnataka, and India's first sector-specific consumer durable goods cluster in Hubli. It is Arvind's vision to transform India into a global manufacturing hub. Arvind, on behalf of our readers and viewers, a very warm welcome to you, to Makers and Movers. Now, thank you so much for.
Thank you, Aanand.
Thank you, Arvind. Now, my first question to you, Arvind, is about the title of today's talk, for which our readers and viewers have joined us, which is how is the concept, this idea of this ecosystem, how distinct and unique it is to the manufacturing and overall global supply chain space? And how does this add or contribute to your vision of making India a global manufacturing hub? Over to you, Arvind.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Basically, when we look at it, manufacturing an ecosystem is a natural, optimized, competitive, efficient way of manufacturing. We know globally the manufacturing is driven by the quality, the schedule of delivery, and the cost. And ultimately, manufacturing will go where it is most efficient. Obviously, subject to economical, geopolitical situations, but always manufacturer will end up, especially on the contract manufacturing side, where there is no IPs involved, it will go to a location where most efficient way to manufacture. So ecosystems is the best way to do when all the supply chain vertically integrated is based in a single location. And that is how it has happened globally in aerospace industry or other industries. And those ecosystems were naturally developed over decades in Wichita, Kansas, Toulouse, France. These are, if anybody you ask in aerospace industry, they are natural ecosystems where you can completely build an aircraft. And obviously, India in a commercial aerospace industry has not been where it needs, where it has a nascent start, early 2000. and it's needed to grow fast. If you need to grow fast, you need to have an ecosystem. That is what we saw as a gap in the country, and we established a special economic zone in Belagavi to build an ecosystem. And when we started it, the in-country value was only about 20% on the machining side when we do machine products. And over a decade, I would say over a decade and a half, I would say we have expanded this some of the products into 100% in-country value add. And when you increase the in-country value add, the stickiness and the value proposition, cost efficiencies are tremendously increases. And that will sustain the customer retention in a much longer period. And that is what has driven us all along. And aerospace, doing that in aerospace has helped us understand how it can be replicated into other verticals. And that's why we've gone and established 2 other verticals at that point in time.
Thanks so much, Aravind, for shedding light on the idea. Now, as, if you remember that popular saying that nothing can stop an idea whose time has come, see about this topic and about your contribution to the industry. One thing that comes to mind is your journey. You know, your journey coincides with the journey of Make in India. It coincides with the events of the last 2 decades, where India has come to occupy, and India has become more aspirational, ambitious about its space, about its position in the global supply chain industry. So we'd like you to elaborate a bit more on this from a global perspective and India's positioning as a global manufacturing hub. And I'll just add one little bit to it to share with you where I'm coming from a journalistic perspective. See, as you know, to give you an example of TSMC, it's a company based in a small country, which, having started at the right time and having done the right thing, has acquired such a phenomenal dominant space in the semiconductor industry, which I find to my mind a little bit similar to what you're offering from India's side, to work with global OEMs, build a leadership position in contract manufacturing, and become a force that changes the shape of manufacturing in your sector. Please do tell me if I'm wrong in my assumption, but please tell your global perspective of this idea, how important this is to India's position in global manufacturing supply.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of actually an apt example of TSMC being a contract manufacturer on the fabrication of a semiconductor, which is obviously a high tech, but still, end of the day, they don't have an IP of their own. They're a contract manufacturer. I'm pretty sure they have manufacturing IP, production IP, various other IPs, but not really a product IP. And as a contract manufacturer, we are in a very similar situation. And is there opportunity for India or Aequs to be a global player? We are already a global player. Almost all our competition is global. When we're trying to win the projects and work with the customers, and winning a customer, it's always global competition. And also the competition based on the verticals is Western or Eastern. We see that all the time. And especially in aerospace side, it has been a Western competition because that's where the industry was. And whereas when you get into the toys and consumer durables, it's most of the Eastern competition, what we see is happening. And this, we started with a very simple thought process when I entered this industry. We were in services business and entered into manufacturing, was, hey, India has been doing all these engineering services, IT services. Why can't we do manufacturing services? And I look at my job, my company, as more of a manufacturing service provider. And that's why we are very vertical agnostic. And I see when there is a customer value proposition, when there is a capability, when there is a various, we can address the vertical needs, and we can build and leverage the India's capability, which is engineering and labor arbitrage. If we can bring this thing to the table, and we can compete. And today, our cost structure on the labor side is 1/3 of China and half the Vietnam. Our engineering prowess is very high, very good. And if we can bring these two as a combination, and especially on the manufacturing and engineered products, we could be, nothing can stop us in the world as a country. But there are deterrents, there are challenges. We can get into it further as we discuss what stops us from being there. And it's predominantly, it's an opportunity exists, and we have opportunity to leverage this to be a global player.
As you so rightly mentioned, Arvind, that these challenges that come in the way of us becoming, realizing our full potential as an economy need to be discussed. Before we get into that, there is something very fascinating. Another thing that is fascinating to me is your journey as an entrepreneur. And it coincides, as is true with all good stories, that the personal journeys coincide with the larger global journeys. Uh, for instance, as you said, you started in the service sector and then came to the manufacturing sector, and you brought in a lot of good ideas from the service sector into the manufacturing sector. In the same way that India is a global power, is a global force in services, and now it's time to do the same with manufacturing. Arvind, can you take us through the journey that you and I believe Mr. Ajit Prabhu started with you with services, and then your foray into manufacturing?
Yeah. Look, it was again a simple idea when we started Quest. Both of us were working in multinational companies, and we saw all the IT service guys are doing globally IT services. We felt that engineering is an opportunity where nobody was doing it back in '97, and my my partner's boss was willing to give the first project to get it done outside, and we started the company, and the company started, and we started executing, and we globally leveraged India's engineering prowess, and we had a capital, basically swiped our credit card and get going, and with some friends and family help, and we were able to get this going, and and nothing has stopped today. Quest Global has 17,000 engineers. My partner continues to drive this business, grow this business, and as went along, we went from power generation to aerospace industry, other verticals. As we did in aerospace, we said we are doing everything for our customers, all the way from design activities, fixture manufacturing, even cutting tool designs. All these things we're providing, and we said, hey, if you're providing all this, once we provided, they were going and giving it to somebody else to manufacture. We asked our customers, hey, listen, if you are doing all this thing, if you are to set up manufacturing, would you come to us? Absolutely, I said, you are pushing an open door. We would love to buy from India because we have offset requirements. Government of India had put an offset requirement with the purchase of Air India and Indian Airlines, and we are really desperate to, meet those requirements if you want to do. And we felt that it was a good opportunity to start. And obviously, our investors at that point didn't like that idea, but that is for another topic to discuss. But later we were able to focus and do manufacturing. And later we separated the manufacturing. Quest Manufacturing became Aequs later in 2014, rebranded. And Aequs today stands as a multi-vertical manufacturing service business in a sense, contract manufacturing, what is called in this industry, in this space. And in 2016 timeframe, even before Trump, even before COVID, the toys industry, a leader from Hasbro came, and Amit Chakravarti came to India, and he was looking at how do we really expand out of China and de-risk from China, and he saw our ecosystem in aerospace, and he asked us whether we could do something of that nature. I said, we're not sure whether we can compete with China at that point in time. And when we looked at the products and pricing, we saw that we could be cheaper than China because labor content of 20-25%. If we can address the other material costs and various other elements and ability to source the material and right cost, we should be able to offer 10 to 15% lower cost. And over a period of time, we have been able to that number keeps changing depending on how China pricing strategy is. Chinese have different pricing strategies depending on their supply and demand situation. And we are able to compete quite well on a global basis to meet the customer demands and deliver. And the journey has continued, and we saw this working for the toys industry. Then we expanded consumer durable industry. But by bringing the right partners, like aerospace, we built ecosystem by bringing in partners to quickly scale. We have a joint venture with Magellan Aerospace for surface treatment. We have a joint venture with Auburn Duval for the forging, and we had a joint venture with Saab Aerospace for assemblies, which we bought out later when they decided to exit the country, exit this business. And by doing this, we brought in global players to be partner and part of the ecosystem to able to deliver vertically integrated solution to the customers, which is today has a what used to happen in 5,000 kilometers could happen in 500 meters. And that journey continues to happen because we have so many things to do with respect to each of these verticals, so much of efficiencies to be continue to be brought in, scale to be done. And manufacturing, if you want to compete globally, you need to be able to scale fast because customer demands won't stop. When they come in, they want really be real solutions, and we need to be able to provide that. For that, you need to have ready infrastructure, ready labor force, trained labor force, and also ability to and the organization ability to scale. And only when we have these combinations coming through, we'll be able to deliver the value to the customers. And we have Aequs been able to put these things in place in each of these verticals and able to provide that to customers in a instantaneous basis. And we can get the projects going within few months of completely new activity for the customers.
Great, Arvind. If we can focus a bit on the aerospace ecosystem that you built, uh, the reason it is so exciting for me to hear is that there is a company that has established an ecosystem that requires so much precision. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Aequs aerospace ecosystem is India's first notified precision engineering SEZ in the country, which is a distinction in itself. Um, and this kind of a sector to establish it in India, uh, where in other parts of the country, a lot of manufacturers, entrepreneurs are struggling with far less with sectors that require far less precision, such as cell phone manufacturing or consumer appliances. To set up this kind of an ecosystem, and I remember one aerospace expert, sector expert, who spoke to us in one of these shows. He said that for one aircraft, the kind of instructions that are required to build one aircraft, if you print it, it will actually outweigh the weight of the aircraft itself. This is the instructions are down to such a minute detail. Now to build that ecosystem in India requires a lot of effort, requires a lot of vision. So Arvind, I need you to share with the readers the kind of challenges and the kind of opportunities that you saw while building this ecosystem in India, and what is your message to the readers who come from different manufacturing sectors, and how to build similar ecosystems or similar best practices in other industries, Arvind?
Yeah. Look, the building an ecosystem we felt it was a necessity for a scale. Obviously, in India, acquiring a 250 acre land, 250, 300 acre land, and committing for that kind of a land and doing all this thing is very, 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 very expensive affair. And we also saw we couldn't do something of manufacturing in a long run in a city like Bangalore, and that's why we decided to do in the interiors of the hinterlands of Karnataka in Belagavi to set up this ecosystem, and able to build it. It's obviously there are a lot of people who were at that time say, are you crazy to do this in go and do? Why don't you do it in Bangalore? Why don't you go to Gujarat? Why are you setting up a special economic zone? Why can't we just go to existing one? We were very clear. I was very clear that this is not an overnight ROI kind of a situation. It's a 20, 30 year horizon, investment horizon what I took. And and we have consistently focused and putting efforts towards that. And when I first made a statement that back in 2008-9 time frame that we will do in country, our goal is to get 100% in country value add. It has taken literally 15 years or so to get to that goal. I mean, today, this year, we'll be delivering wheels for aircraft with 100% in-country value add. We'll be getting the material from the Hindalco, a partnership with Hindalco, Alumex, to buy the material, aluminum material, and then forge in our joint venture with Aerospace at Squad, and then machine at Aequs and surface treat at our API and ship it to customers. And this level of vertical 100% in-country value add, that has, that is something which is very rarely you can achieve in a single region. I would say in the world, especially in Asian side. Its western side, absolutely it was there, but not in India, not in Asia, other parts of Asia. But it has been strategically, investment has happened. We have a 10,000 ton hydraulic press. That's the first in the country. We brought this press. It was designed and built by designed by our partner, built in China with the controls coming out of Germany. It took us literally 2 years to get it up and running, and another 3 years to certify by the customers and start using the parts from that. And these are long-term investments. These cannot be just, anyway, the return on the investment of this could be 10, 20 years sometimes. So unless you have a horizon like that, you cannot invest in the aerospace industry. And today, I can proudly say that every aircraft which is flying out there, any new aircraft which gets built has a part going out of Belagavi, one way or the other. And it's somewhere in the aircraft, we have a part coming up, some contribution happening there. And we are delivering 100% on time and, 0 ppm to Airbus for last 30 plus months. And that's a testament by itself that our ability to deliver from India has capability to do it, globally meet the requirements, challenge anybody to meet the quality and the productivity and also the cost requirement, cost basis. And that is what our goal was, and we believe we are there, we can do it, we can scale this further, and we are still a drop in a bucket on a global aerospace market perspective.
So, Aravind, just to quickly extend on this, what was the reason that prompted you to build a vertically integrated aerospace ecosystem, for which I believe your company was also awarded the prestigious Global Airbus Innovation Award, and recognized this ecosystem as the first of its kind in the world. Now, these are big words, and I'm very excited to know what makes this ecosystem so unique.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you really, I mean, the typically what happens in aerospace industry, the aluminum mills produce the aluminum somewhere in the world, and they're certified by the OEMs, and then they go into a machine, a supplier, which they cut and size it, and then go to the machine shops to machine and surface treatment somewhere else. And these parts could be traveling in a US basis. Our plants in US, these parts sometimes travel several thousand kilometers before they're finished and sent. I felt when we were doing these are all established ecosystems. Wichita could be a little bit less, distance-wise, but we felt that if we could put all this stuff in a single zone with the right partners, we'll be a lot more efficient, much less carbon footprint to do this. And it's when we could do this because we're doing it from scratch, from a clean sheet of paper. It could have never been possible to do something like this in an existing ecosystem. It will be more complicated. And you don't really install a new forging press, every year or every month. It happens once in few years, and once in a decade, a lot of times. And because it costs $20 million to put something like that, a press like that, operate like that. So it is something when we put something, it becomes like an anchor bolt, and everything else around that can be built as an ecosystem. And that's what we have tried to do is build machining as a core competency and build everything else to increase the in-country value add. That is how it happened. We have done on the forging machining, and we always want to do on the casting machining, but it has not been an easy one to bring casting capability to India. And because Western partners, nobody is interested in coming to India because it's very difficult, it's very labor intensive, very tribal knowledge, and that is something which we lack in the country even today, in my view. Right casting, machining capability.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Now, from aerospace straight to toy manufacturing. Now, would you call was this a leap of faith, or was this a natural progression?
It's see for me, as we did in services, anything I do has to have a customer commitment. First, there has to be a market or a customer who is willing to buy, who is willing to commit on our strategy. And jointly we can, we are willing to execute if somebody is willing to commit to a strategy. And in this case, Hasbro, committed to the strategy. They wanted to source $400 million from India. I said, okay, we will, if we can commit to get to $100 million kind of a market opportunity, and we will be able to invest and set up something. So that was an anchor customer we signed up on, and based on that, and we were, our goal is to build this from scratch, and that's what we did. Initially, we did a pilot facility of 40,000 square feet, then we built 200,000 square feet, then we built 600,000 total capacity, then now went and built another 700,000 square feet infrastructure in copper toy cluster. Whole 400 acre zone has been established to do this. Again, here as a country, we have a polypropylene domestically manufactured and sold, and ABS is imported. And these are the core plastics which are used in this product. And then we have various other foam components, the various other spring components and other bought-out items, classy items, which can be bought. The stickers and various items are taken. Paints are still imported into the country. The basic paints, because certified toy certified industry certified paints are still not available. It's still area we're working on in getting that undone. And with that, we are able to, most of the stuff is, I would say, in toys, we are close to 95 to 98% in-country value add when we use a polypropylene as a plastic material. Whereas ABS, if you use ABS, most probably you are at 70-80% because there is no real ABS source in India, qualified ABS source in India. So that ecosystem continues. Today we have, just started last year. That ecosystem and also can support domestic requirements and export requirement. And government has been proactively trying to support this industry. And we are in a discussion. Government is talking about potentially providing a PLI to the toy industry because this employs a lot of people. And this is the biggest strength of this industry is employment. Unskilled labor can be put into work within a 1 week or 2 week of training, and it's incredibly easy to move a person who's in an agricultural area into a woman, predominantly agriculture, into a manufacturing facility with a training within 2 weeks period. And this could be a significant job creator for the country. And this is something which we keep telling the government, and hey, this is important. And we are unemployment rates need to be improved, that it needs to have something of the industry of this or garment, that type of industry needs to be supported. And this we're asking to competitively, to be more competitive, and especially to deal with some of the disadvantage of cost of capital and some of the indirect subsidies and direct subsidies which are being provided by some of the competition on the eastern side. We felt that a production linked incentive could be a way to do this, and that is something which we are discussing with the government to support that.
Wow. Even from where I sit, I think this is a very brave and courageous move, in the sense that by entering into the toy industry, you've taken on the might of China, which I believe is about 80, which is a dominant force as it is in anything to do with manufacturing, but especially in toy manufacturing. I believe more than 80% is China exports and produces more than 80% of the toy products in the world. Now, this is something where we need to learn from you as to how and why do you think you can make a space for toy manufacturing in the country and compete globally. What are the main advantages? We just spoke about a few things where you can give opportunities to the skilled labor, These are the things that help other industries also. But to make a space and position for yourself in industry which is already dominated by, it requires something more than what we already have. What is that X factor? What is that leverage that you have so much confidence in taking on these forces?
Look, there is India. I would say again two pieces which I say: engineering abilities and abundant labor with the labor arbitrage, the economic labor arbitrage, are two biggest reasons why we decided that it makes sense to do this, and long term it makes sense. And look, when a customers globally are blindly sourced over a period of time, 100% of their products into one geographic location, that they're bound to change that mindset. Question, I cannot dictate when it happens. When we entered this industry, we knew that it was going to happen, but we didn't know when it was going to happen. We didn't know that Trump will come, will become a president of US, and he will make some changes and put some actions. And that is driving of various other things, and COVID and various other geopolitical situation, current geopolitical situation. We see customers are very much interested in at least de-risking at least 15, 20, 25% of their product manufacturing out of China into other countries. And we believe we have a platform. And if I were to, we felt that if I were to provide a similar platform, similar level of confidence, similar level of scales to our customer, there is no reason for them not to work with us. I mean, today, most of if you really look at it, domestic manufacturing units are fairly small, 10, 20,000 square feet facilities. Whereas when you go to look at Vietnam and China, the facilities are 500,000 square feet, million square feet. Today, we are being able to put a similar facilities, similar ecosystem, where the city could be ecosystem in China, but we are able to replicate a mini ecosystem in a 400-acre zone. And that is what the idea is. If we can provide that kind of a solution, customer has confidence that our ability to deliver on time, quality products at a competitive price. They are happy to de-risk any day. It's no different than what aerospace customer told us. We are pushing an open door. It's almost in the same situation. But look, as in aerospace, aerospace has hundreds and thousands of parts in an aircraft. There are hundreds of thousands of different toys exist. So capability is also different. So it is important to understand what our strength is and where we start building for a period of
Sorry, I was on mute. Ladies and gentlemen, I was saying that I believe the connection is lost. We'll soon have Aravind back with us. As you must have heard until now, and I'm getting a lot of questions also regarding the toy manufacturing industry. I guess I need to log off and log in again.
no, no, some reason nobody is able to join, I think.
Okay, I'll ask these people to
I don't know what's the
just
issue.
just
I
a sec.
think, yeah. Uh, no, both of us are here
Yeah, we are
talking.
talking. This is being streamed live. So as far as that is concerned, people will join back. I think the connection was lost.
They
So
have
the
to join back.
audience is,
Most probably
yeah.
they
So
have to join back.
they have to join back. So
Yeah.
Dinesh is working on that. But this is being streamed on various platforms anyway, where viewers can check as to what happened, what transpired. We are also getting some questions, Arvind. But before
Yeah.
that, you see, the natural question that comes to my mind is that similar efforts led by institutions and industry bodies, especially in our country, have never worked so successfully, or at least are not, uh, fetching the result, the outcome that you have shown in such a short span of time of, 10 to 15 years. What is the reason, and why have they worked in China? I know I'm I'm veering into a space which could be a bit political, but considering, given all the factors, all of them being equal, what could be these reasons that are so much working in your favor and do not work in the favor of institutions and the
Yeah,
situation?
look, it is, if you look at we believe in China, there was a concerted effort for a province or a region to focus on certain industry, certain particular vertical, and go after it and globally convince that they can do it. And they've done it over a period of time. They have extremely efficient operations. They're done. And because there was some committed resources put up behind it. And when you come to a industry body, maybe CII or FICI or whatever it is, there are so many things to do. There is no owner to his life is dependent on this. The states, it's end of the day, there are so many priorities. When it comes to it work, in my mind, it works as a private industry. It works because this is something, no choice. I have committed so much resources to make sure it's successful. And I'm there in front of customer to convincing them. My team is there in front of the customer to convincing them to this is the right thing to do. This is why it will succeed. Otherwise it would not be successful. Because priority, ends of the day, it comes down to priorities and necessary resources. We put hundreds of millions of dollar capital deployed into these verticals and these ecosystems to make sure they're successful and deliver customer and build credibility. And when you deliver, it builds credibility, and that's a key element here. End of the day, customer wants a de-risk supply chain, a global supply chain. It's cost effective and delivers day in and day out with the least amount of maintenance. That's what they want ultimately. If you
Wow.
can answer that, they are there.
Wow. So you refer to something that Nassim Talukja, the author of The Black Swan, calls as the skin in the game. So you have the skin in the game, and that is the differentiating factor in how you're able to push this through. Now, my next question has to do with consumer durables, Aravind. Now that segue or foray, I'll not call it a segue, but coming from your choices, the way you make decisions as to look at the demand and whether you'll be able to fulfill it or not. Your foray into consumer durables, where does that come from? What were the driving factors, and how are you doing in that space?
Yeah, again, consumer durables, that got triggered predominantly what happened during the COVID between India and China. And India ended up raising barriers. All the consumer durables predominantly gets imported from China and gets branded or rebranded and marketed in India. That is what the situation is. We saw this has to change because government wants to make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, all these things. End of the day, India will have to manufacture this thing. You cannot be having a dosa tawa coming from China, manufactured in China, sold in Mysore. It's kind of ridiculous,
Yes,
you know.
which is the case. Yes.
Which so we believed that this has to change. Again, we saw that there is an opportunity to do it, and this is, I can do 100% in country value add on a dosa tawa. Nothing stops me from doing. If we are to do in country 100% in country value add, we should be able to compete globally. Yes, can I compete globally on a global supply, global customers? May not be there yet, but within India, I can easily do that, especially with certain tariff barriers and everything what government has erected to do that. And once we do that, then we have scale, then we can compete globally. Without scale, we cannot compete globally. Even in India today, we have 6 million pieces of capacity, non-stick cookware capacity. And and this is one of the largest capacity installed in the country in the last 1 year. And this is the first year of our operation. And we are working with many customers, and as a contract manufacturer to support that. Wondership is one of our key customer. And we ended up establishing, because of Wondership, this whole facility because they needed some suppliers to do this. So they're buying from China in the past. So, and obviously, this is where, can I compete globally? That's where the challenge comes, because there are certain inbuilt logistics challenges, cost of capital for me to compete on a global basis. And that is something which I cannot address. I cannot change the cost of inland transport. I cannot change the cost of the 40-foot container, what it takes to go from Mumbai port to New York or LA. And those are the things where I expect government to play a role, a central government especially to play a role. How do we make it happen? Because I can only control what I control is basically ability to produce at the best cost my product. And what happens with inland transport is completely out of my control. And obviously we can use rail little bit better. And there is no sea, there is no waterways in India, much of it, and it's predominantly road transport. Road transport costs have come down, but nowhere near. We still see a significantly higher road inland transport. Our logistics costs are double than what it happens in China, bottom line, inland and international. So unless, and these are the products which are highly competitive, have 2, 3, 4, 5% margin, and you cannot have a double your logistics cost to 6% from 2 to 3%, and you cannot be competitive in a global market. And cost of capital is another reason, which is obviously is a big impact on in the industry, especially when you start talking about working capitals and talking about credit terms in this business. Those are all the additional challenges what you see in this industry.
So cost of capital, just curious about it. It comes from the interest rates being raised across the world, or are there other factors also contributing to cost
No,
of capital?
cost of capital is predominantly is a risk adjusted cost of capital, put it that way, in the country. And when we
Okay.
see that, and rupee depreciation, various other element comes into picture. I mean, typically in China, even today, the interest rates are lower. You know, yes, Europe and US has moved up.
Correct.
More comparable today. But
Correct.
then on top of, actually, we may be in an advantageous situation when, especially look at a rupee depreciation perspective, we may be almost in a similar situation as US and Europe. But I'm not competing with US and Europe today in this manufacturing. I'm competing with Asian countries, and where the interest rates are still lower, and I am disadvantaged by that when I have to borrow at 10, 12%, when they can borrow at 5, 6%.
Oh, that's very insightful. That's very insightful.
You know,
Thank you for sharing it with us, our readers. So they need to understand the challenges that entrepreneurs face, and the association and the government bodies need to focus on these areas as well, along with the policies, the
yeah.
pro-industries policies. And I believe they have taken it up, but these are systemic issues. I understand that. So,
Yeah.
what do you think could be a way forward for the government to be able to
Look,
help
yeah, I mean,
businesses such as yours?
the cost of capital is something we have to deal with it, because it's much broader economic challenge, economic issues which we need to deal with it. And I think, look, we are okay when it comes to competing with the Western play. It's more of a challenge when it comes to the Eastern play right now on the cost of capital perspective. Uh, uh, and because in aerospace we compete with the Western players, and when their interest rate was negative, they could easily buy equipment which was much more efficient than my labor arbitrage advantage. That was a big challenge for us. So, and that is something which we were able to overcome by sourcing some equipment from Western countries and using working supplier from there.
Wow.
Able to match the cost structure, and we have fully automated, flexible manufacturing system in our Belgaum facility, which is in line with what would happen in Western country,
Wow.
and just to make sure that we can deliver similar efficiency, because sometimes labor arbitrage itself is not going to get you where you need to get to when labor content in a product is extremely small.
Small.
In toys area, it is much higher labor
Correct.
content, so it's a different issue. But when the
Correct.
aerospace, the labor content is not that high
Absolutely. And
as a percentage.
wow, you've been forced by fire, as they say, Aravind, having to compete with the best suppliers in the world who are being favored by macroeconomic circumstances. And you fought with that, and the kind of manufacturing practices and the learnings that you have taken out of this would be of tremendous help to you and to people and to the readers who are listening. Uh,
Yeah.
that's where my next question also comes from. Is I think one of the biggest issues to my mind, uh, ailing, not ailing, but facing the Indian manufacturing sector is the perception, the global perception that is building up for industries which are more critical, will deal with critical supplies such as medicine, for instance, pharma, for instance. We have seen in the last few months some instances where good manufacturing practices, as they practice in the pharma, may or may not have been followed, for which they are getting flack and attracting bad press, and in some cases rightly so because of the casualties and all that, uh, which is out there in the media. My question is that, from an industry where you're dealing with global OEMs who are so particular about precision, such as aerospace, where you're leading, you are among the front runners in this sector. Uh, what is your message? What is the insight that you can share with companies who want to do well in the global space, in the pharma, where we already have a presence, in the generic space? But that is not enough because these things are happening. What should be done from your perspective to be able to maintain good manufacturing practices, to be able to build a perception that Make in India stands for something stellar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, look, you know, uh, there is a lot of capability exists in the country, you know, um, but that is not meeting the global requirements for various reasons: safety, environmental health and safety. We met several companies, organization may not be able to meet, and that's why they're not able to compete on a global basis. It could be scale also. That's a second issue. But first, focusing on making sure the ESH and ESG side of it is taken care of. That's the number one. Make sure that ESG and EHS meeting every raw of the land is there, is met, and EHS and ESG side of it. And then comes the scale, the ESG, EHS, and able to compliant with the global requirements is more of a organization culture.
Sorry,
It is
I'll interrupt.
it's
EHS is what? ESG?
yes, EHS is environment, health, and safety.
Okay, okay.
You know,
Yes.
uh, um, and the key is comes down to the organization culture more than anything else. In my mind, quality is not a product because somebody inspects at the end. Quality needs to be part of the manufacturing process. The manufacturing operator needs to know the quality of the product, output, input coming, output going out from him. And if you cannot win this game, putting more inspectors and inspecting to the death, yes, there has to be inspection systems should be there, processes needs to be there. Unless you invest the resources on systems and processes, to establish quality system, you cannot really build that culture because a owner operator cannot make it happen. It needs to be an organization culture that needs to be built and that needs to deliver. And that is the only way we can. Some of these organizations who have gone out and got into trouble where culture has deteriorated over a period of time. Some other focus has come in. The financial focus became more, most probably than getting a product out right. So today, for me, number one priority is quality, then schedule, then comes the cost at any cost. First is quality, then comes your delivery, meeting the delivery requirements, and then the cost issue comes in. Once you commit to deliver, meet the customer, commit to customer that we are going to deliver, we take an order. It is always that order. If quality is not there, I don't care. Even if the schedule slips, we will deliver quality products. Because at the end of the day, it's our own credibility. We have had several times, we have to rework things and deliver. So be it. I would rather be late and get penalized for it than delivering a wrong product. And if you know there is a miss, be open to communicate to customer and live with the consequence what happens if there is a slippage in our system unknowingly. So you got to stand up to it and live with it. There are costs associated with it, especially when you're in global play. It could be millions of dollars, but you have to live with it. You have to take it on chin and learn. Organizations to learn. If you cannot build an organization of that nature, it's not easy going to be in being in a global play.
Wow, I'm letting that sink in. These are very, very important wise words that need to be communicated, that need to be conveyed across our sectors. Thanks so much, Arvind, for that input, for that insight. Much needed uh, for our corporate professionals and businesses. Now, this leads us to our concluding question, after which we'll take up quite a lot of questions that will come to us. Okay, all right. I'm being coerced by my colleague to take questions. Before that, Arvind, I wanted, since we're talking, and this is a great time for me also to ask about the pro-industrial policies by the government. There are a lot of things happening. There's some logistics policy, ease of doing business, make in India. Uh, what is your perspective on that, and is there something more that needs to be done?
Look, I mean, we are manufacturing in India. We committed in India before Make in India came. Uh, uh, and we were doing Atmanirbhar Bharat, doing 100% in country value add before Atmanirbhar Bharat came. So for me, look. End of the day, we know what and India's capability, but the government using these themes to communicate outside is very important. Okay, they people rally behind certain Make in India, those kind of themes, and it makes it easy for everybody to talk about it, and a kind of a more of a ability to give a segue to so that we can pitch what we are and what we do in India, what the scale is looking for, what the mindset of the government is prioritizing. These things, can be used as a starting point of a discussion and provide actual solutions. End of the day, and is there any capital committed under Make in India to any vertical businesses? No. And under Atmanirbhar, maybe there was a PLI scheme, I can say, came out of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And those could be helpful. And I hope some point in time, the vertical will see that benefit. But, but the point comes down to is, nobody has to wait for these themes to come in. If you see a business proposition, if the value proposition exists, you should go and start your business. Well, doing the manufacturing activities in these verticals, any verticals for that matter.
Thanks so much, Arvind. Our audience members are getting a little bit anxious that their questions are not getting answered. So I'll just quickly take two or three questions. One is from Mr. Mohan Naik from Makino. He asks, can India embark on airframe and aero engine MRO? If yes, by when? And if not, why?
Airframe MRO is already happening in the country. Look, MRO is leave aside the engine MRO. Let's talk about the airframe MRO. Airframe MRO is not about it's more about the turnaround time. How many days the aircraft is going to be down on the MRO side for the A check, B check, C check, if you're going to go down for C check. How many days it's going to be down, and how committed you are to get that aircraft out on that day when you committed maybe 15 days before, 1 day, 1 year, whenever it was scheduled. They may be scheduled 1 year before that I'm going to bring the aircraft on this day and you're going to finish in this day and give it to back. And you must meet those schedules. And you have systems and ability to do that. And it is not a labor arbitrage predominantly, because if you take 2,000 hours to do within that period of time or 1,000 hours, it doesn't matter what it is. So it is important to be able to turn around that, because everyday aircraft is not flying, it's costing whole lot of money to the airline. So key is number one priority is to make sure we have all the capabilities necessary to turn around the aircraft to the international standards, number of days. And second comes, are we able to do in the same number of hours, labor hours? Or labor arbitrage, maybe 15, 20%, 30% against, what is the current hubs of nearby hubs, which are like Dubai or Singapore or Sri Lanka, and if maybe 15, 20%, if you're taking 15, 20% more hours, that arbitrage is gone, So as the India, we need a lot of MRO facilities because number of aircrafts will increase. And I would say we are large enough aircraft airlines, they will end up having their own MROs, in my view. If you look at what Delta does in US and everything, that's what I see on the airframe side. On the engine side, it's more of a rotables. The engine MRO will go to the most optimum location where it happens, cost structure perspective, because engine get dismounted, shipped out on a global basis. So that is more from the technical capability, the cost and various other pieces comes in. And India is capable of having all of them. Today we are manufacturing parts for these. So why we will not be able to, do the, do the MRO in India, provided all the process and partnership. And today, most of the time, MRO partnership happen in partnership with the OEMs. So you know, it's not that India cannot do it. It's just a question of whether there is a value proposition exists. And government might have to put some kind of a weight behind it to make it happen, in my view. Only then some people will end up moving. Otherwise, there is no reason, because especially on the engine side, the cost of doing an engine OMRO some other place maybe it's exactly the same as what I'm doing here. And establishing the whole new facility could be more expensive. And also you need to look at it, especially leased aircraft. Most of them are, before TPO, most probably those engines are going out. I don't know how many, these are 5-6 year lease. In the past, they were only holding 5-6 years. Today, they may be a little bit longer. And most of the TBOs are 15,000 hours now, you know, total overhaul. So that also is another question, if you longer aircraft holding pattern, owned aircraft holding pattern, then you'll have more opportunity for MRO.
Wow. Thanks for that very informative answer. How much time do you have for questions? I have 2 or 3 coming up. And do you think you can answer a couple of them?
Another couple of them should be
Another
fine.
couple of them. All right.
Yeah.
Hardik Mistry from Siemens Digital, Southeast Asia. He says how Aequs drives digitalization as world sees that digitalization changes many things and various aspects of manufacturing.
Look, digitization is the key in increasing the manufacturing efficiency. I mean, today all our CNC machines are, we can know the data, cut time, air time, you know, OEEs and all these things are digitally collected and used, analyzed. And before even a plant is set up, digital design happens, and flow and movement of the equipment and movement of the parts, the layouts and everything is finalized using that system. So digitization and every part we today, especially all the new aircraft, 787, 350, 3 including 350, 380, and all are designed digitally. If you and today we have get digital models of the and all the PCDMS, it's all integrated. Whatever I do inspection is comes from the original design of the aircraft. The section is taken out and transferred out, the part is transferred out. So the linkage exists all the way from the original, the full aircraft design to the part level. So that integration is happening. Pretty much we do, and the shop floor is a paperless. It's digital tabs. People have pull up the drawings if they need, and that is the only way in the long run it's going to work. Because any version changes, you don't need to run around with the paper drawings and any of the stuff. So automatically they will be able to see which part is running, which version is running. Is the latest version. Corresponding drawings and parameters are seen, and inspection also. A lot of inspection CMM is moving towards optical. Various other solutions are coming into the picture. So image processing, optical, all these things coming into picture on the. So digitization is all happening even on the back end. For us, SAP is the source of finally all the data, and then there are other tools which are around for connecting to shop floor and quality systems and everything. And at the end of the day, everything has to hold up into a single system. So that's a natural part of the process.
Thanks, sir.
Evolution, I would say.
Great. Now, the concluding question is from Madhav Jindamwar. We have not many questions, but we have time for this one. Now, Madhav asks, he's from the toy industry. He says, for toy industry, the biggest challenge that we're facing is how to speed up the new development, in brackets, quick development of new products. Please guide how we can make fast development of new products.
Yeah, I mean, look, the product development in the toy industry is very, very, very interesting for me. As we enter the industry, we're originally as an OEM manufacturer. Today we are ODM type of solutions we are providing to our customers, and we developed this capability out of Hong Kong. Because we knew that product development has a various phases, especially toy development. You have concept, you have a model, a clay model, then prototypes, and then finished product, and then tooling, and then final production. Our customer expect in 24 weeks the product to be launched. Okay, maybe another 12 weeks or 24 weeks to be product to be designed. So it's a very tight cycle, and we have 20-25 products coming in and going, 50 products sometime in a year, and we finish up and get it out. So the tool design to product manufacturing, 24 weeks is a lot of times is what they provide, no more than that. And it is a tough one, and it needs a scale, because they all come at the same time. Fall season, spring season happens at the same time. Christmas comes on 25th of every year, doesn't change. So you have to have ability to scale, hundreds of engineers put in to develop multiple products parallelly and do the tooling. Your tool capacity is a challenge. That's why a lot of tooling goes to China even today. So if you want to, the design of the product is upfront design, more of a concept, or you focus on the concept, or is a customer giving you concept? If customer is given concept, how do you take a concept into the production? And that is the area where you need to focus. And these are different skills, unfortunately, but it needs, so for scale, you need to invest in each of these elements. So you need to see where the customers are coming, which level sometimes customers are coming, ready to do the tool transfers to you from some other location. And so tool transfer to production could be in 10 weeks time frame. So you will have to figure out where you are playing and where your activities are, and you need to correspondingly invest. And for us right now, most of the design of the new product happens out of Hong Kong office of ours, and we have a team there, because that's where a lot of conceptual understanding of the products exist for the global market perspective. And then the whole ecosystem exists in a quick prototype development perspective. And we expect it to transition over a period of time. India will be there. We know our copper toy cluster will have their own capability to do this over coming years, but initially we have to still play in the global market.
Wow. Now, folks, the leaders who are watching this, now we should know at least one of the reasons why Aravind is able to dabble with these many industries and make them a success is the passion that he brings to everything that he does, that he brought to the conversation that we have today, to your questions, his personal involvement in making everything so good and successful. Thanks so much, Aravind. Our heartiest wishes to your vision, to your goals of contributing significantly to making India a global manufacturing hub. Thank you so much for coming to our panel.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you. Wish you all best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.